Synthwave is a genre of electronic music influenced by 1980s film soundtrack and video games. Beginning in mid-2000s, the genre developed in various niche communities on the internet, reaching wider popularity in the early 2010s. Its music Okay, now that I gave you a history lesson from straight out of Wikipedia, let's actually try making it. Yeah. Look, I even have the Commodore 64 skin on it, you know, for the occasion. Okay, so the main bread and butter, the first thing you want to do is probably change the tempo. Generally, I feel like the tempo is somewhere from 80 to 115 BPM. Oh. Well, I guess I'll go myself. Next thing you want to do is get, I guess maybe your kick and snare pattern. I used a regular 707 kit. This is actually a free VST. I have the separate thing, which is like a vintage drum kit, 80s disco kit from Nexus. I like the punch of it, and I also use it as like a separate snare for like reverb. Kind of gives that, yeah, that 80s vibe, because reverb on the snare is like very, very 80s. Bass line is pretty much a rolling bass. I really mean it. It's like a detuned pluck saw wave. Like, that's honestly how I would describe it. So it's kind of something like this. This is basically your same saw pluck, but with bit crush distortion. So that's kind of why it sounds like that. And I slapped an EQ on it and brought in the highs so you can hear more of that distortion. So the next thing you want are some chords. Let's get some chords in. So if I can try to explain to the best of my ability, these are detuned saws that a low pass filter closes over them over time. So that's kind of why it has that sound to it. I bet if you turn up the resonance, it'll have like a stronger like closing sound to it. Kind of like this. Okay, I threw in a little bit of sidechaining as well. You're probably wondering, like, what the hell is this? Basically what I do is I dedicate one track in the mixer as a sidechain bus, and then I route everything I want to sidechain to it, so I just automate the volume of that. There are multiple ways to sidechain, but this is the one that I find very easy, because I can just take one clip and then just spread it across. So it's very convenient for me. Anyway, here's how it sounds all together. Next thing we do is probably like the lead. So I kind of would find the cheesiest lead sound. I recently bought Complete, so I have this thing called Retro Machines. So I have this. You can probably tell what song this is now if you've played Sonic Mania. I kind of like this weird like synth brass instrument here. I felt like it fit very well. So I kind of used that as the main melody. I added some plucks in the background like this. It'll make more sense once you hear it with the rest of the track. Everything else we throw in is probably just unique to each and every artist. Technically, that would be the same for any bass, drums, or chords in general, but, you know. So let's listen to this track and see how it turned out.
Courtney, what are you hearing from U.S. military sources about the size and nature of this attack?
So we're hearing so far that there were at least 3 separate barrages of incoming. But what remains unclear is exactly what it was. The original reports were that they were rockets, that the U.S. military there on this base were hunkered down. They were in bunkers for this original round, which was reported as 6 rockets. But then the incoming kept coming. There was another round that came through, and that was when things became a little bit fuzzier, Lester, is exactly what it was that was coming in. You know, Richard mentioned the distance between al-Assad and Iran. The military there were saying that they believed that this was coming in from the direction of Iran. Was it actually from inside Iran or not? That would be the big difference here. Also, what would be a huge difference is whether, in fact, these were rockets or ballistic missiles, as there has been some reporting on media.